Good morning. Just want to update the information from yesterday. I spoke with my brilliant, beautiful attorney last night, and she said I should have called her prior to going to court. I went to court with the idea that mathematics and physics trumps the LIDAR. However, in the state of Tennessee, that is incorrect. If you decide to fight a speeding ticket in Nashville, Tennessee, you need to subpoena that officer's records, his certifications, his training records. You also need to subpoena the maintenance for the LiDAR gun that he uses. You need to subpoena the calibration records of that particular LiDAR. Anything having to do with that LiDAR, the only chance you have of winning a speeding ticket in Nashville, Tennessee is if you can prove that that particular LiDAR is not maintained properly. And chances are it has not been properly maintained or it has not been properly recorded. That is the only chance you have of winning a speeding ticket that I know of in the state of Tennessee. Because in the state of Tennessee, the prosecution does not have to prove that you are guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. All that has to happen for you to lose a speeding ticket in court is for an officer to point his LiDAR at you, get a reading back, and the court will take that as gospel and find you guilty. This is my first attempt at a web capture video, so I apologize in advance for the quality of this video. I'm making this video because I went to court in Nashville, Tennessee this morning, and it was presided over by the Honorable Dianne Turner. I was very disappointed in the outcome of that case. In August, I received a speeding ticket, and for the last 2 months, I have been doing extensive research on both the LiDAR and the broad sweep radar gun. I read the PDF from the National Highway Safety Institute. I have read the information on from experts in the field. I have read physics problems that I didn't understand, um, geometric problems, and I started to bring the geometric problem with drawing, but I thought that was an overkill. But now looking back on it, had I known what I know now, it probably would have been beneficial. Most of the questions that I asked the officer, he did not know. He didn't hide the fact that he didn't know. Some of the questions that he answered in the affirmative, I asked him about the unit he used to determine my rate of speed. He did affirm that it was the LiDAR. I asked him if he was certified in the use of the LiDAR. He said that he was. I asked him for the certification. He said he did not have it. I asked him how many hours of one on one training in the field with the professional instructor he had. He said 8 hours. I asked him how long ago this training was. He said it was 6 years ago. I asked for the record of that. He did not have it. I asked if he'd completed any additional coursework on this unit. He said that he recertifies every year. I asked for the paperwork on that. And at that point, the judge told me he did not need any of his certification paperwork. He did not need the paperwork on the LiDAR because what I wanted were the maintenance records because it's a LiDAR. It has to be maintained by a factory rep, and the maintenance has to be done by a factory rep. However, according to the judge, he didn't need any of that. His testimony was that he pointed the radar at me and he got a reading back. That was the stance of the state's evidence. So it's my understanding that the prosecution has to prove that I am guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So I've done 2 months of research to try to present the possibility of doubt in this case. However, I ran into a lot of barriers there. As I was asking the officer questions, the judge expressed about 3 times her exacerbation, and she told me to get on with it because there were other people waiting. When I explained to her the importance of me presenting a good defense on my behalf, she simply rolled her eyes and sighed deeply. When I went to present physics based on Michael Faraday's work, she told me that this information was hearsay. And when I explained to her that this was basic physics, and I attempted to tell her who Michael Faraday was, she told me if Michael Faraday was not there as an expert witness, then this was hearsay evidence, although this is simple physics. If you love electricity and electronics the way that I do, you know that Michael Faraday's work is a cornerstone in electromagnetism um, and the electricity period. But she said this was hearsay evidence. Although I had printed information with ISBN numbers, she said she did not know what an ISBN was. And when I let her know that these were the numbers on published work in this area, she told me that this information was hearsay, even though this information has come from accredited academic institutions. She said that it was hearsay information, even though I had references along with ISBN numbers for the information that I wanted to present to the court. This information has come from reputable engineers and scientists and physics in this field. She said that unless they were there physically, this was hearsay information. Even when I went to present information from the manufacturer, she said, unless, and these are her words, unless the manufacturer is here to support this information, this is hearsay. The manufacturer is they created the LiDAR. They put out the LiDAR. They may not have created it, but they are the ones that make the LiDAR. And she told me that unless they were physically present, the information from the manufacturer was hearsay. I went on to ask the gentleman other information about the unit. So I felt that based on the amount of time he'd had the unit, that he should know his unit very well. I thought it was a fair assumption. He confirmed that. But when I went to ask him for a list that can cause his unit to display an inaccurate reading, he said he did not know. When I asked him for the optimum environment for an accurate reading for his unit, he said he did not know. When I asked about the factory rep who does the calibration and the maintenance, he didn't know. I rephrased the question and he told me where it was they took the unit for the maintenance. I asked for paperwork on that, and of course, the judge had already said that they did not need any maintenance paperwork, any calibration paperwork, or a certification of the use of this unit by the officer. I asked the officer about the slip effect. He had never heard of the slip effect. When I asked him about terrain error, he said he did not know. The only thing he seemed to know partially is that a laser had to travel in a straight line to be accurate. And the road that I was on, it was at 4:35 p.m. And I do understand that I'm mostly retrying this in the court of public opinion. But I feel that the evidence that I presented was credible, even though I didn't have a dead guy there to verify it. The road that I was on was curvy. The judge was well aware of that road. She did know about the curvature in the road. Um, Also, there is a pretty big substation right there. I presented the pictures of the substation. I presented the pictures of the regular utility poles. According to Mr. Craig Woosly at NES, the gentleman I spoke to on August 22nd, 2016 at 8:41 a.m., he said each one of those regular poles in that area carried 13,800 volts of electricity. And when I went back to count, there were actually 29 of those poles and 14 of the largest utility poles. So, based on my understanding of the amount of voltage in the utility poles, they're anywhere from 150,000 volts to 300,000 volts. That there were millions of volts of electricity creating a very high electromagnetic field in that area, along with the six bridges. And the six bridges are actually less than a block apart. I did point this information out to the judge. The officer only remembered two. He could not tell, he didn't know the color of the vehicle I was in. He couldn't tell what vehicle I was in. He didn't know the amount of passengers that I had in the vehicle with me. I started out with basic questions and then I proceeded with questions about the gun. Most of the questions, besides the confirmation that he'd been certified, he did not know the answer to any of the questions. He did not know the answer to anything that could affect the accurate reading. He did not know the number one cause of error with the LiDAR, which of course is human error. He did not know the things that can interfere. And I also talked with a Miss Marie Anderson at NES, and she thought that I was calling from the Nashville International Airport to complain that that area was interfering with the plane's radar. But of course, none of that was presentable in court because none of those people were there. I have consulted with information from structural engineers, physics, tops in their field, and even though I had printed evidence of this information, she said it was hearsay because the people were not there, even with these being noted publications. When I pointed out the fact that in an earlier case, the prosecutor used the law book on the table, that didn't make any difference. Unless I had my experts there with me physically, then everything that I presented, even though it's in printed form, um, it was hearsay evidence. Um, the officer did confirm that the traffic was heavy. It was 4:35 coming out of downtown Nashville that day. So he did confirm that. He also confirmed that it took him time to get to me because of the density in traffic. When I went to ask him, oh, the prosecutor did object to something. He objected to me asking if I seemed genuinely surprised that the officer pulled in behind me because I asked him why it was that he pulled me over. In my guesstimation, there was not anyone speeding on that day. I still feel that there was an error in the display reading that had come back from the gun that day. And I was trying to see if there was anything else that I wanted to share in this video. There are several areas that are named for the LiDAR gun, and recommendations from the manufacturer as to how that gun should be used. However, all of that was ignored. After the court case, I conversed with a police officer outside. He told me that in the academy, they were instructed on how to use the gun, and then they got it and they shot it, and then they went out and spent 8 hours shooting it at real traffic. And he told me that was the extent of their training. I feel that I was let down in the justice system today because it was the prosecution's job to prove that I was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Although I brought evidence to show that there's a possibility, even from the manufacturer, that there could be an inaccurate display on the LiDAR, and from the National Highway Safety Institute, as well as the rest of the references and information that I brought to court. It was not considered in my defense. I have gotten the message in Nashville, Tennessee. The message came through loud and clear. If I am foolish enough to come to court to think that I have a chance in defending myself against the police officer who clearly said he did not know the answers to most of the questions that I asked him, without any evidence, the prosecution did not present any evidence but the ticket and the word of the officer. No certification, no maintenance records, nothing on behalf of the prosecution. I've got a message that I don't need to spend 2 months doing research to prove that there's a possibility that I may be innocent of the charge that was presented to me. And I also understand that if I'm foolish enough to come to court, you will penalize me with court costs in addition to the fine that I receive for speeding. And if I think that an error has been made, I also understand that if I appeal the decision, it's going to cost me about an additional $100 to appeal the decision. So I got the message. If I don't want to waste a day, if I don't want to pay extra costs, and I don't want to pay the extra cost to appeal the decision that I didn't think was accurate in the first place, then I should just hold my head down as a docile citizen and just pay a ticket if it's given to me. I did get that message loud and clear. Now, one of the things that was unique was the fact that she said I was better prepared than most attorneys that step into her courtroom. And the sad thing is, I knew more about the operations of that LiDAR than the gentleman who spent 6 years with it because of my research. But because I did not have any of those people physically present, even though I had their written work, it was not admissible in court. When I was leaving, the only comical thing that happened when I was gathering my stuff, a gentleman walked up and he'd gone to the podium behind and he did the whole swearing in, and the judge asked him, he said, "Hey, you're guilty of XYZ. I don't remember what it was." But she said, "Are you pleading guilty or innocent?" And he said, "It seems that based on the fact that I'm here," oh, no, I'm sorry. He said, "It seems that I'm guilty simply based on the fact that I'm here." Because all the people behind me, they heard the evidence that I presented. And that was a gentleman directly behind me. And as I was walking out, I yelled, "Amen." And I thought, okay, she's certainly going to get me for contempt for it. But she just let me go. But I think it's a sad thing that in the United States of America, if you go to court to prove that you're guilty or I'm sorry, innocent of an offense, even though you have overwhelming evidence to cast a shadow of a doubt on your guilt, that you are guilty simply because somebody else said that you were guilty. Even though we know that electronics malfunction all of the time, none of that matters. So hopefully I will never get another ticket in Nashville, Tennessee. But I've gotten the message. I just need to save my day because I have not made one penny all day. I need to save my day, make some money, and simply pay the cost. And ma'am, Miss Dianne Turner, the job you did this morning, I think for your profession, it cast a tremendous shadow on your profession simply because you were there to judge what was right and what was fair. I came in there and I entrusted you with that sacred honor. However, you acted as a prosecution for the state, and I'm terribly disappointed with that. Guys, with that, that is the end of my video. I just wanted to air this out because I was very disappointed with the way things transpired this morning.